Welcome, everyone. My name is Aaron Smith, and I'm the CEO of EVA. And I'm joined by Gabrielle Kanaposki, who hopefully a lot of you got to meet at the show and is responsible for just incredible marketing and uh, social media efforts at EVA. So, Gabrielle, we're really excited to have you join us today. I don't know how many of you got a chance at the EVA Summit to stop by RainStick's booth, but I did again. I got to see them at iBiz last year, and this is just an incredible technology on water efficiency, and I think one of the more unique things that I've had a chance to see. So we asked them to come and do a EVA webinar podcast. So this will be up at eva.org and recorded on our learning management system. And then we'll have it on the Better Homes, Better Future podcast too. And of course, you can always reach out to Sean. Sean, you're on your final slide there as I give the intro. Just go back to your home slide.
Okay.
But feel free to reach out to Sean and ask him any questions. So we've got Q&A open today. Ask your questions throughout. I will ask those to Sean at the end. And then, of course, we have the chat open. The chat will go to the panel directly, and you can put your questions there as well. So, Sean McFetridge, so great to have you here, and let's take it away.
Thanks, Aaron. I appreciate the introduction. Yeah, we're fresh off having come from the EVA event in Salt Lake City, which was a success this year. So very exciting. And I think when you come back from an event like that, you're kind of full of, hundreds of conversations with builders, and you start understanding the drivers and importance. I think that it's very interesting to say that there is an interest in water, and I think every summer we're reminded by droughts and forest fires, and certainly in our neck of the woods, the conditions about water, and it's an important issue, and I think it could be the future difference between good versus great when we talk about the built environment. Aaron, I'm gonna switch over. I was looking at you guys, and just give me like the verbal like thumbs up that you guys can see my slides.
Yeah, everything looks great, Sean. Yeah,
Thank you very
if
much.
there's any issues, if you see me pop back on, you'll know I have a question or there's an issue.
Okay, fantastic.
Awesome.
So, yes, as Aaron introduced, my name is Sean McFetridge. I'm the founder and CEO of RainStick Shower. Some of you on the call may have heard of what we're doing at RainStick, but for many that are jumping on, it will be a completely new idea. We are North America's first recirculating shower. Yes, I said recirculating, so I'm going to get into that in a bit. And I'm very interested and excited to bring you a kind of an overview of the why, but also some of the applications in terms of where we make sense to bring into your build project. So I like talking about kind of this water crisis, and I don't want to be overly dramatic, but it is an extremely important issue. And I always like to start talking about the why here from a perspective of, we're really in a time where a lot of people will even come to us and say, look, we have water, we know where it comes from, it's secure for us. And our response back to them tends to be, yes, but you don't have water where you need it, when you need it, at the right quality and at the right temperature. We're finding more and more pockets throughout Canada and the United States and around the world in terms of we're just not having all of those things put together. And when we think about how water in our cities needs to travel, it needs to be first collected in a reservoir and then channeled to treatment and pumped, chlorinated, and then pumped into our buildings and heated and then disposed of, and then the entire kind of disposal chain of that drop of water, it can be quite energy intensive. We sometimes look at statistics where municipalities will spend kind of between 30 and 40% of the energy that they consume just dealing with the processing of that water that's supplied into our homes. So I want you to keep that in mind. It's kind of the idea of having water is one thing, but having it where you need it, when you need it, and at the right quality are very different categories on their own. So I want to talk a little bit about where water goes in the typical kind of residential home. As a company, we're really looking, where are the spots where water could be much more efficient or used twice or used multiple times. We're looking at about 50% of the water that we use in our homes originating in the bathroom space. And that's namely showering and toilet flushing that make up, it's about 25 to 30% each. But again, 50% originating from that bathroom. So for us as a company, it's certainly the logical place to start. Canadians and Americans are some of the largest water consumers in the world. So we're using between 80 and 100 gallons per person per day to sustain our lifestyle. Our goal as a company, and I will say this won't happen just with a single product being a very, very efficient shower, but our goal as a company is how do we let people live and thrive and enjoy their life with just 13 gallons of water per person per day. So that's going to be an immense challenge. It's going to involve other assets within the home. But that's what we're about, right? We're trying to do more with less and really keywords here, live and thrive and enjoy their life. Grab a glass of water. So a 10-minute shower uses about 25 gallons of water. And I think when I'm doing presentations, I sometimes bring up this timeline of the history of what we've done to the shower head. For those of you on the call who have, memories of staying in a motel or hotel, back in the day, you can remember that kind of big flow, 3.5 gallon per minute pressure. And we've seen this kind of ratcheting down as a control mechanism to just basically use less and conserve within the shower head. So we've seen that go from 3 gallons per minute down to 2.5 and 2 and now 1.8 and further in many jurisdictions. We're taking a bit of a different approach at RainStick Shower. I'm going to talk about that in a second because there's a reuse element to that drop of water in place. We're concerned less about wasting that drop of water, single use, but a huge point of where water is wasted within our homes. So RainStick Shower, really looking at, how do we use that drop of water multiple times? I'm going to talk about the technology in a little bit more detail, but we're actually using that drop up to 6 times. So all of the embodied heat energy and the water, very important water itself, is not just going down the drain single pass. So we're actually able to develop a shower that's 80% more water efficient and up to 80% more energy efficient than standard kind of normal showering options. I mentioned we care less about that single-use wastage, so we can actually double the flow at the shower head. And this is sometimes a little bit confusing to people, and I'd like to just use the context like at the shower head, we're actually bringing you back to where we were in the 1980s. So we're delivering a 3 gallon per minute shower experience, but we're doing so just using a 0.5 gallon per minute. So it's an incredible water savings that we're realizing. This equates to about 11,680 gallons of water being saved per person. So we're talking like swimming pool of water per person saved with RainStick Shower. In terms of energy abated, 2,192 kind of average kilowatt hour energy. And I think that's an interesting comment coming back from EBA. And there is a lot of members from kind of that passive home community. It's just very interesting to hear the fact that we've done an incredible amount and we've dedicated an incredible amount of technologies towards the betterment and the efficiency from an energy perspective of our homes. And we're really kind of hitting that barrier where we've certainly done the low hanging fruit. And there is members, particularly from the passive home community, they've been so laser focused on kind of energy per square foot, really looking at embodied heat energy that we're paying for and wasting as part of our energy budget that's going into the use of like single-use domestic hot water, which this group knows that could make up between 25 and 30% often of total energy profile within the home. So I want you to think of that kind of energy benefit as well. So what does this mean from an economic perspective? Well, I'm going to say that the number that I'm presenting here is actually conservative. We get folks from different jurisdictions where this is much greater, but I'm going to say it's up to $1,000 in annual water and combined energy savings per year. This is going to really depend in terms of where you're doing a project in the country. We get folks that say, you know, energy is more important to me than water, and that's making up the majority share of savings. And then we get individuals where that's the exact opposite. So it really just depends on the cost of your utility. Another interesting community is there's still a huge prevalence within North America, Canada, and the US, where folks are on trucked water, pumped septic. They don't have soil conditions that are allowing them to actually dispose of their wastewater into the land. So I would kind of say, like, take that $1,000 and throw it out the window. If you're paying an incredible amount to have water, you know, be trucked in and out, you're just in a different ballpark. So there is a lot of nuance applications where being hyper efficient and focusing on your freshwater budget and water use is just more important. So I'm hoping that this video screen rolls. But you guys can see we're just kind of running and kind of showing you the at least the first step of how RainStick shower works. So from time to time, we'll get folks that'll just be like, oh, you know, you're a fancy shower head, you do all of these, you know, the savings. There's a lot going on underneath the hood. I would probably describe the RainStick product as being similar to a shower column, but almost mixed with like a spa-based product. So there's a lot going on. Obviously, we're recouping that water in a very specialized designed reservoir that sits at the bottom of the product. Water is passing through a micron level screen. It's being pumped up. So that's step one. Step two, we're bringing the water through a sanitization process. So we're dealing with things like viruses and bacteria, and shocking that water essentially with UV. It's a UV LED product. So for all of the reasons you like LED within your home, we've actually included it in the product itself. And then there's a continuous refreshing that's happening. So part of the secret for us is that we're, you know, I would maybe describe it as like you run yourself a bathtub, but instead of turning the tap completely off, you're leaving it open, just as a minor amount. That minor amount is actually refreshing that very small volume of the water that you are using, to provide you with that experience. So I think one of the most common questions that we get is, you know, we'll be asked by customers, you mean to tell me that the shampoo and conditioner that I'm using in my hair is actually being recirculated? The short answer is yes, but to some extent it's being refreshed instantaneously. So if you were to watch the bottom of the reservoir, you would see shampoo, conditioner, soap products resolve themselves in a very short order, approximately 90 seconds. So a new concept for a lot of people, and I really do go back to that description of this product being, you know, kind of closer to it is a bathtub, or kind of like a bathtub meets a shower. We're talking about a hybrid experience. And then my last slide here, there's an auto cleaning session. So I can't state the importance of hygiene and cleanliness. There's a number of factors built into the system that allow and permit hygiene and cleanliness. One of the main ways we control that is this auto clean that happens. We use a very kind of tiny amount of water that's provided by the house, and we recirculate that in a loop, along with a proprietary product we call RainStick Original Cleaning Product. And it really just inhibits and makes inhospitable any biofilm, viruses or bacteria pathogen risk within the shower in between uses. Two other important things to note kind of on the final step. The user starts with fresh water every time. So they're never sharing water from a session like the previous user before. It's always a unique batch of water. And the other thing I will say is that that the user can control when they switch from traditional shower mode to recirc mode. We always want to have that control over that ability. We get the question sometimes, what if I'm coming back from mountain biking and I'm muddy or I want to kind of like wash off? You would literally, with the click of a button, be able to override or bypass the recirculating feature of the shower to permit that kind of single pass down the drain use. So we want you to use the default recirculating shower, but it's permitted to kind of use that at any time, that kind of single pass use. So I'd say we're ready for deployment. We're a company that's based out of Western Canada. We actually manufacture our product in Canada, but we sell and our sales personnel and team are located in Canada and the United States. We're UL and CSA certified, so we're a plumbing safe product. We've gone through a number of bodies to do the plumbing certification, and we've done electrical plumbing products as well. We build in an ISO certified manufacturing facility to kind of uphold and maintain quality. And we do offer volume builder pricing. So typically our model would be our sales team would reach out and engage to different builders. We usually start with one, but some builders are kind of ready to go and commit into a more efficient shower product, and that then we can talk about volume-based pricing. So I'm going to end it there and say thank you. I am happy to grab onto any questions, and I'm just going to maybe revert back to our home screen.
Yeah, fantastic, Sean. Couple of questions. Are there any, we're always dealing with the building inspector, and are there any things special that we need around the plumbing permit or maybe training for the authority having jurisdiction of accepting the product, or have you faced any issues around that so far?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a spectrum. So I'll first answer your question like any
It always is, by the way, Sean.
It always is, yeah. And I think when you're doing something new and innovative, that's no different. It is a certified product. I will say in many jurisdictions, it's actually a new product, even for the building inspector community. So they're again hearing about it for the first time. Often when we show them the labeling and the process that we've gone through, that's often enough. We, as a company, will dedicate some resources. If there's an authority having jurisdiction that needs more information, we'll kind of jump on that and use that as an opportunity to coach them. In terms of installation, it really has been designed to like bring your own plumber, bring your own electrician. These are the individuals that are capable of installing the product. In some ways, we've been told it's actually easier to install because the mixer for the shower, which you typically put behind the tiled wall surface, is actually contained within. The new part of that is that there is an electrical requirement. So we do require, it's 120 volts GFCI protected circuit.
Okay.
There is no pump on board. So you're not dealing with the maintenance and energy requirements that would be required if we were heating the water. We're just using a tiny bit of grid supplied water to maintain the loop. Yeah.
So I'm sorry, you said it's not pumping the water from the bottom to the top?
So we have a pump on board.
Yes.
Did I say pump? Sorry, if I said pump, I meant heater.
Yeah.
There's no heat
Okay.
on board heater.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're not doing any auxiliary heating, but you're
No,
obviously pumping it through the system and then adding
that's
a little
correct.
bit of
Yes.
water as you need. Okay, great. So, I mean, you brought this up, but a question was, is there any specific plumber training that we have? Or maybe it's, more topical of, have any plumbers had any issue thus far as far as installation goes?
So we have two. I think we're here to help is probably the way I
Mhm.
would say that. We will typically work with plumbers and have a conversation about rough in, just like any other shower. Um, We have instructional videos, instructional technical guides, care and user guides. Um, we'll go as far like if there's a customer that is looking at kind of a repeat purchase program, if they're a kind of a mass home builder or modular or prefab builder, we'll actually send a technician down and do training in factory,
Oh,
just to make sure that everybody is involved and knows how to put the product
nice.
in. It's very simple. We've even come up with a mechanism that allows for a drop-in base.
Mm,
We get asked the question, is this the type of thing that I'm buying and retrofitting myself for 3 hours on a weekend? The answer is no. It's a planned project. So you're doing a shower or you're doing a new construction effort. But in terms of, comparable to what we do today with showering and steaming and putting in, electric floor heating, it's much, much simpler in some ways than even those technologies.
great. What kind of maintenance is required, and specifically around the micron filter?
Yeah. I'd probably describe, so you just notice when I was speaking, I didn't use the word filter or dead end filter. That's been designed on purpose. So we're a company that didn't feel like it would be effective or necessary to kind of give the user a molded plastic filter that jammed up. We actually use the recirculating shower through refreshing and dilution to clean it, and then also the cleaning cycle in between. But the micron filter is really in place to protect the pump. So much like you would clean the lint screen of your dryer,
Mhm.
um, I refer to it very close to like a Dyson filter that's grabbing small debris particle. That's every 2 weeks. So you're going in, just cleaning those out. And if you were ever to neglect that or any other kind of feature as it related to the maintenance of the product, it simply just reverts back to a traditional shower. So
Mhm.
we're going to revert you back to a low flow, single pass shower until you correct that maintenance point. And then you're going to get the full 3 gallon per minute big experience. So cleaning the micron screen, super important. The other touch point, which I will mention because there's only two, is you're topping up that proprietary RainStick original cleaning product tank. That's done every month. So you're putting
Okay.
20 drops in, you add water, it
Yeah.
self-administers into the loop. That's done every month. Simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. As you look across, or maybe it's for this audience, probably across North America, what do you see as kind of key markets or target markets? Where are you having great success with installations, and where are you perhaps looking to try new installations, and looking for builder customers in those markets?
Yeah, we're always open to new partners. I'll say that we have a pretty wide cross section of folks that maybe they've done and challenged lots of the low-hanging fruit in their builds from an energy perspective, but they really haven't done that much with water efficiency. So they're looking at different technologies in terms of, there's folks out there that are creating a water package to some extent and offering that up to customers. Potentially they're building in areas where there's high water stress. So you've got folks where that have unique challenges or soil conditions aren't allowing for like septic discharge. Um, Potentially they're trying to differentiate themselves within their community as kind of the most water efficient structure or building offered. And in some cases, and growing cases, we're seeing different regulations, like we're seeing in Phoenix, Arizona, where if you don't come with, let's say, 100-year water plan
Hmm.
from a single source water point, and you don't have a plan for it, you're not getting permitted to do your building, or your tap and connection fees are exorbitant, right? So we're looking at different water and pain points, and probably getting the most traction from those communities.
Sean, can we get credit for, I think we are all very familiar with energy modeling and energy raters, and going into a home with a pretty good idea of what the ERI rating might be. Um, but it occurs to me, like, we have a lot of builders in Phoenix that are, now they have to prove a 100-year water supply.
Yeah.
I think there's these defaults where they say, oh, the average house uses 18,000 gallons of water. I guess what I'm asking in a long way is, can we
I think I know
energy
where this is
model?
going. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Can we sorry, can we water model the house to show, no, we've got two rain sticks in and we've got, water sense fixtures and we're only going to use 12, so we don't need to prove as much.
Yes.
Thoughts?
It's just been an absolute, it's an absolutely great question. And it's been a frustration of mine in that we carry over the legacy assumptions of use per asset. And
Right.
that particularly we see that done when we do domestic hot water supply planning, um, but also outflow. And it's never been more important, particularly as we look at talking about increasing density. We're having, the same size pipe, we're adding an ADU building beside a primary home, and that's, meant to increase density, and that should be the, I guess, the driver for building a more efficient additional dwelling unit, right? So it depends. There's certainly technological ways to measure it down to the gallon of water being used, so that's not the issue here. I mean, one statistic that I'll give you, and I probably should have called this out, but one rain stick shower is the equivalent of the savings that you would achieve from an entire home gray water system.
Oh, wow.
Because when you look at the statistics of like how much, so what water sources does the gray water system
Yeah.
rely on? Showering is number one, like an inflow of
Yeah.
a lot of showering water, and where does it go? So the
And
effective use is the same.
yeah, and Sean, just for our audience who may not be familiar with what gray water is, can you just explain that a little bit? And that's a whole interesting thing too, because some municipalities it's allowed, some it's not. So
Yeah.
more and more are allowing it now. But can you explain gray water a bit?
Yeah, I think gray water is another strategy to allow us to use that drop more than once, and it has an important place. It typically tends to be a technology that's capturing water from things like showering, basic hand washing, and using it for bringing it back into the home for toilet flushing. And so
Hmm.
um, there's going to be times where that absolutely makes sense, certainly in new construction. Um, but there's going to be some times when you take a look at payback, the space that's required from that system, and it's not without its own maintenance requirements, where a more topical point of use, appliance centric water solution is going to win out and make sense.
Hmm.
And that's where we align our mentality at RainStick.
Hmm.
Like the whole mentality is why wouldn't we knock out the waste, shower water waste at the source first, and potentially recoup some of that energy within our kind of 8 foot loop. That's our mentality.
Hmm.
So we're going to see more and more of it. Um, Gray water has its own regulations. You're right.
Hmm.
They're in place and they're growing and they're being more accepted. I will say that RainStick shower is not considered a gray water product, doesn't classify as a gray water product. We don't retain any water for prolonged periods of time in our catchment basin.
Yeah,
Once it leaves our drain, yes, then it becomes gray water, but we wouldn't be classified as a gray water product.
right. Question, you and I were talking before we came on about how we've all been so focused on energy savings for really I mean, eBay's been around for 42 years. It was really started with the idea of energy savings. But I think the day for water is here, right? And a great example, I've got an apartment building, and for that 27,000 square feet, just in rough numbers, I'm going to tell you that the gas bill is not $200 a month, and the electricity bill is not $300 a month.
Yeah.
My sewer and water bill for that building is $3,300 a month.
Yeah.
So you know what my question is going to be here? It's like, I think many of us that are high performance builders have already graduated to the point where if you start, I mean, another funny point, my Wi-Fi is more expensive than my heating and electricity bill. So how can RainStick help us in a project like that where we can avoid what is the most expensive line item from a utility, the water and sewer costs for that building?
Yeah, I think we talked about this at EBA actually. Builders, I'd say that smart, savvy, good builders are very conscious, of course, as they should be, about cost per square foot.
Hmm.
But more than that, they're focused on communicating the cost to maintain. Because the important question mark for the person who's purchasing their product is, what is my monthly serviceable mortgage cost that I need to
Right.
maintain? And they often bring in those numbers that you're talking about. How much does it
Yeah.
cost to run the place? And that's when you see, certainly within the water space, 6 to 8 to even 10 in some jurisdictions annual increase in that purchase, not just on the inflow, but you pay for the sewer and discharge flow. Often there's two charges on our bill. It becomes a very important feature.
Hmm.
And I think it allows builders to stand out and be competitive. If they communicate it right, that's the kind of the big if they communicate it right. Um, and I have no doubt in my mind. So I first of all agree with you that we're behind when it comes to energy technology. There's tons of great, exciting technological options and trendy options. Um, but it's time to start thinking about how we make our homes more water efficient. And that's got
Right.
to be, I think that's got to be more than just kind of leak detection
Hmm.
and monitoring. It's actually like, no, what are we doing to
Yeah.
aggressively curb the consumption and make more with less within our home? And so
Yeah.
tech products like RainStick, but others as well, are going to be part of a portfolio of like making that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I like is I think that it's difficult to go much lower with flow on shower heads without us running into consumer complaints. And I'm of the age that I always remember that Seinfeld episode where they were
Yeah.
buying the,
Yeah.
you know, the shower heads out of the trunk of the guy's car. Uh, but I love your solution that you're saving that water and then you're adding just a little, so you actually get two times the flow out of it for the consumer. So this is a case where it reminds me of natural capitalism, where it's like we're not doing less bad, we're doing more good at the same
Yeah.
time, right?
It's absolutely right. And I'm glad you brought up that episode because in some of the slides we have that front and center. It's just funny. I think we've gone as low as we can go. And
That's
and there
it.
will be others that innovate and they should and will add air and atomize drops and do all of that technology. But I can tell you that when you're showering with 3 gallons per minute, actually 3 gallons per minute,
Yeah.
it feels awesome like 3 gallons should, right?
Yeah.
And we're holding on to the conservation mandate. So while we're providing that at the shower head, we're only pulling a half a gallon from the home.
Right.
So a half a gallon compared to some of the best low flow options is like drastically further reduced.
Yeah.
Um, and I think we had to just, break the mold and think about what is the technology solution that is going to allow us to do this. Like we looked in development of the product, we looked back at the history of like cultures around the world taking baths. And we did that for decades and centuries of like taking baths. And what we're doing is we've taken that model and stood it up and we have more hygienic
Yeah.
and cleaning processes in real time. And it's just an interesting take on kind of moving away from that traditional single pass shower concept. Yeah.
Right. That's fantastic. Several months ago, we had a EBA webinar podcast with EPA WaterSense and them talking about their new carbon calculator tool. I thought that was it. Those of you that haven't seen it yet, you should go back and watch it. Um, I mean, they have figured out by every utility, at least for the United States. I assume there's another one for Canada as well, what saving a gallon of water means in carbon footprint
Yeah.
reduction,
Yeah.
operational carbon footprint reduction. And I think the other interesting piece is talking to some of our builders that have sustainability reports, is they've actually made the connection in their sustainability report of being able to say, hey, this is government approved. By saving water, we are saving this much carbon. Kind of your thoughts around that messaging for builders and that tactic for reporting on sustainability, and RainStick's potential impact on that.
Yeah. I spent the majority of my past life, past career working. in energy conservation as an energy manager. And I really couldn't get that far with the energy and gas. I was focused energy, gas, and water reduction without bringing in that kind of energy water nexus. And I
Hmm.
think I was very adamant about focusing on the lowest hanging fruits as our first option, and would down to the technology run paybacks in terms of what was more efficient and what we would grab onto just a little bit more every year to improve our efficiency. Um, and I think we've gotten to a point in many applications, once we get past the basic technologies, I'm saying now basic, they were never basic, but we're seeing
Hmm.
things like heat pumps and PV solar and better windows and doors and insulation and envelope. We're going to get to a point where water is just like the next logical thing in front of us.
Right.
And if you want to call yourself an ever continuously improving builder and pushing the form, you're going to have to take water seriously very quickly. And I think you mentioned that there's some out there that are maybe communicating both those
Hmm.
scope one, like how much energy is this burning off within our
Right.
building, but the scope two is just the bottom of the pyramid or the iceberg under the water.
Right.
It's I mentioned at the top of my presentation that some municipalities are 30-40% of their energy consumption just moving water around.
That's
So
it. It's
yeah,
crazy,
it's
right?
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of your board members, I had a chance to hear speak, years ago, and he talked a lot about the energy, water, food nexus. And it, I mean, you want to be frightened a little bit, the amount of energy we use pumping water around is just ridiculous. So
It is.
it has just a 10x or greater every gallon that you can reduce in the house.
Yeah. Yeah,
Is
it's
pretty
incredible.
incredible. Yeah. So one of the dangers of my job, Sean, is that I always see these new technologies and then I want one. Where can I buy RainStick? Is it in local plumbing distribution? Is it in some of the big wholesale houses? Is it on Target.com? Like, where can I get one today if it's something that I'm interested in purchasing?
Yeah, we do there's a number of ways. We do a direct sale. So if you're looking at a single system or want to line up just kind of either a personal project or kind of smaller volume project, we do that directly through rainstickshower.com, so our
Okay,
e-commerce site. You have two finished choices, matte black and brushed nickel. Those are
nice.
available today. If you're looking at a more involved sale where you've got different team members and maybe need the support of a sales individual because
Mhm.
training's involved, or you'd like to kind of incorporate this in your long-term build planning, we do have a business development team. So I'd just be more than happy if someone reached out to me and told me where they're located, we could put you in touch.
Fantastic. And upcoming shows where we can visit with you again at. I know I saw you at IBIZ last year. You back at IBIZ this year? What other shows are you guys going to?
Yeah, we'll be there. I don't know if we'll be presenting. I think the next one
Because
for
you
us is
were you were best new product of
that's correct.
2024. I
Yeah,
mean, that's how we
that's
met,
right.
right?
Good
Yeah,
memory. Yeah, we've had some
yeah,
very big success in a very big tent with lots of brands, and big budgets, and we're just doing something different at RainStick, so I'm very proud of that.
yeah.
We're going to be, I think, at least in the Canadian market, we're in Toronto,
Okay.
Cottage Life Show.
Oh, great.
Um, there's a modular building type show that we're going to be involved with as we talk to that market. So that's coming up and planned. Beyond that, it's an open card for us. Yeah.
And of course, we hope to have you back at EWA September
Yes.
17th,
Yeah.
2025, St. Paul, Minnesota, which is way north of Toronto.
Yeah. We can absolutely look at that attendance. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, Sean, I want to thank you so much. I mean, this is an incredible product. I'm getting ready. I got to recover from my kitchen remodel, but I'm getting ready to work on the bathroom, and I would love to put one of these in our bathroom remodel when it comes up. So, just hats off to you for an incredible new product. And again, Sean, I don't know if you want to put your email address up one last time before you just say it. I think,
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Oh, I'll just type it in the chat for those. It's
yeah,
Sean, SCAN at rainstickshower.com.
awesome. Or always you can give me a call or an email and I'll make sure and connect you with Sean. Sean, thank you so much. Great having you here today.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Aaron.
All right, take care.